Welcome to True Me Integration, an opportunity to talk about living authentically, alchemizing trauma, and living in integrity. I have the pleasure of being here with Jacia Kornwise, a soulful embodied coach, you're going to help me say that correctly, and also a person who is in a conscious community that I get to be a part of, and I've got to share dance space with and have Jacia as an instructor over the years. So I'm so grateful to share this space with you and to talk about what True Me Integration means for you. So thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. It's a great option to show up and be in the true me. I love it.
Yes, wonderful. So before we jump in, please share with us how you show up in the world and how you spread your magic that you create.
Gosh, my path has been multi-leveled. I started working as a therapist, went into master shadow coaching and coaching. I also then did rhythms of acceptance, my own dance practices and authentic movement practices, and then trained as a 5 rhythms teacher, integrated that into my magic potions, trained as a breathwork facilitator, a somatic trauma-informed person, and an intuitive. And some other kind of more shamanic and earth-based practices as well. So there's been a huge conglomeration of ways I show up and serve in communities and festivals and groups, one-on-ones, couples through the years. It's just depended.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. Yes, so many different ways that you're sharing and spreading your magic with people. But yes, as I mentioned, the name of this summit is called True Me Integration. And so before we go into more depth, I want to hear from you, what does True Me Integration mean? What does that stir in you when you heard that title?
I love it because I was just sitting here before, this came on and thinking to myself, okay, true me. And I think that is the journey of a soul, is to discover what is exactly the true me, right? And my experience of I'm 54 now, and each part of my journey, the minute I hit a point of waking up enough to recognize I was not being my true me, became a sheer dedication to what is the authentic me. And that always is an ongoing evolution, I think, for any person who's on a path of awakening, on a path of becoming whole, right? So the true me is that spot deep down, which is our wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so me. It just isness. But along the way, the true me is that part of you that when you are showing up, you feel every part of you saying, I'm speaking from my heart. I'm feeling grounded in my body. I feel my roots. I feel my ability to connect. I feel like I know when my boundaries are there, my no's and my yeses. I feel like I can be free to be me. And that's a feeling we get. That's a knowing we develop. And it shows up through multiple disciplines, practices, and tragedies, all the things that help us direct traffic.
Absolutely. Thank you. So for some people that might be listening, they may be beginning this journey of like understanding what their true self is, or even what that understanding that is something different than maybe as they're showing up in this moment or in their relationship or in their work. And so I'm curious if you'd be willing to share sort of what started your journey for you, or what's been a meaningful time in your journey that's helped you.
Oh my goodness, there's so many moments. I remember this one moment when I was in college and it was a public speaking class, and I was going to have to give a speech in a few weeks. And I was watching a girl get up there, and she started to talk about her eating disorder and just cold turkey talk about it. And in all of my years, I'd never seen someone be boldly honest in like an institution like that, a college, University of Michigan institution, in front of like 30 of her peers. And I remember going home stunned, and it jolted me like a bolt of lightning. And then I had to write this paper that same year about what really mattered to me. And again, I had such a hard time articulating it. And so I noticed those things, and it kind of threw me into almost a spiritual mental breakdown, that those couple of weeks where I was like, I have so much inside me. Why can't I express the true me? And then tragically, my brother about a month later was hit by a drunk driver. And he was my only sibling and my best friend, my beloved. And it changed everything for me. But what it did, ironically, is it shattered my entire reality. And all of a sudden, I was having experiences that no one else could relate to really around me. And I was having to find out what I truly believed, what I truly felt, who I truly was. And it just kind of opened the doorway to the beginning of complete authenticity and the willingness to share my truth, because suddenly life became too urgent to not be you. It could
Mm,
disappear at any second. And it became so clear that anything that wasn't real wasn't worth being engaged in. And any part of me that was operating out of fear or not good enough, or I don't want people to know about this. I mean, I started hearing voices. I started hearing messages. I was like, what is that? The whole religious thing went out the door and into another direction. I got thrown into meditation. It just kind of vortexed me into understanding that. So that was one moment. But then
mhm.
there's like the simple moments of like being, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this kind of moment, like your early development, or maybe your development in your 40s or 50s, but realizing that you're in a sexual experience and you're not there, or
Mm,
you're feeling like this is what everyone's so excited about. Like I'm kind of on the outside in, I don't feel connected, right? So that's another indicator that you might not be living from that authentic space, that true space, because when we're truly connected, right? I mean, you
right.
feel it and you feel safe in the moment with it in your body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being able to be in that present and aware enough to realize that you're not actually present and aware in your actual lived experience. And it sounds like some of the tools and practices and journey that you've been on have helped you to create access to those places within yourself. And so,
Yeah. And it's funny, one other piece, so I'm born blind in my left eye.
mhm,
And that particular piece, when everyone feels like they've got like a fatal flaw, and I'm not minimizing everyone's, because everyone does have that thing, that feeling that they're like, this just isn't good enough about me. But I knew mine would never change. This was the deal I got. And it definitely, had me feeling like I had to become better. I had to be better at everything else to prove that I wasn't ugly, deformed, not good enough, all those like inner messages. It
mhm,
started pretty early. And I started to recognize what's truly me and what's not, especially when the world will reflect to you something isn't okay, that is
right.
just naturally you. So you're like, they're saying there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, I was just born this way, So what do you do?
Absolutely.
Right? You have to become authentic or you're miserable.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what that means, authentic. I think that's an interesting word, and I've had different people, take it in different directions as far as like what does it mean to be in our authentic self. And yeah, so I'd like to hear from your perspective, like when you talk about being authentic, what does that mean?
It's a feeling that as you are expressing yourself, you're not hiding your heart, you're not hiding your truth, you're not trying to be something someone wants from you. You're trying to show up as you are, and you speak from that place. And you also learn balance from that place. I think when you're really in balance, your authenticity comes out with compassion. But on the way to that, sometimes authenticity can sound really mean or harsh, because there's still inner critics inside that then get projected out and thrown at other people. So I think the authentic heart is like chiseled away like a diamond that you just keep, rubbing things until suddenly you see the bright colors. It's been there the whole time, but you have to keep taking off the layers that keep it from shining bright.
Hmm. So those other expectations and relationships and impacts that we've had that may have kind of covered up that authentic self or that relationship to the authentic self.
Yeah. I mean, you can often see, there's like that whole like, I'm a badass bitch. And that whole movement. And like I
Right.
love it. Like I get where it's going.
Yeah.
But is it fully authentic, or what are we really trying to say with that? And I say it too, like, oh, like I can play
Yeah.
with it. It's not a critique when I say it, but what is really being spoken to that? Like
Right.
it's like, I am free to be me, right? And then sometimes it gets bolstered into all these images and a way you have to look to suddenly be a badass bitch, as opposed to just like, I'm a human who's like badass because I'm myself.
Right, exactly. And I think when I think of the true me integration, it's like, yeah, you might have that aspect of that badass bitch, but you've also got this like tender, soft, like little being that just wants to be nurtured and taken care of and brought tea when you don't feel well. Like that doesn't make you any less of a badass bitch, because you have that part too. And so I think it's important to be connected to that. And like you're saying, like, when is that authentic? Is that authentic because that's you feeling embodied, or is that you covering up what your actual needs are? And then that might not be so authentic. Yeah.
And that's beautiful, because you're speaking to that on the road to authenticity, we have to get in touch with our needs, the needs that we were told we weren't supposed to have. And we have to find a way to meet them. We have to find a way to nourish ourselves, to love ourselves, and to then create relations that actually reflect that kind of response towards us, as opposed to more victimhood or more ignoring of ourselves. So I love that you brought that in, right? Our little girls, our little boys, our little humans.
Yes, all the multifaceted parts of us.
Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned was being trauma informed and trauma aware. And you know, as I mentioned, part of the tagline is alchemizing trauma. And you know, trauma, as I'm sure you're aware, but also for our audience, it means wound. It means something that's unhealed within us. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are around this idea of alchemizing trauma, and if there's if that's possible, and if so, what practices might support in that.
Well, gosh, that is sort of, I think, what ultimately my soul came here to teach and offer, is alchemizing trauma, because I have gone through a lot. I've been raped, I've been violated, I've been raped at gunpoint, I've had grief, I've had loss, I've had sick people, I've had death in my life, right? So I've been chased, I've been robbed. I mean, you name it, like there's been all the experiences, pretty much, not every single one, but many, many, many. And I truly can say that I am not run by that, in a sense that I don't experience myself fully as like a victim anymore. I feel free to be myself. So yes, I believe there's a ton that can help someone on that journey. Everything from breath work, dance, not as a like performance per se, but as a freedom, as an access to being able to move through your emotions, your heart, your find comfort in your body, find love for every part of you, free your mind, get into the present moment. So dance is a meditation, dance is a movement practice, breath work, meditation in general, eating and caring for self-care, coaching and counseling. We all need people to talk to. We all need people to root us on, groups, processes. That I just think there's so many reflections and ways actually to move through trauma. And it's not to say that it isn't a difficult path, but when you alchemize it, it becomes the gift you carry. And I can truly say that there's not one thing that's happened that I don't see a gift from. And I really am stepping through a pretty big portal this year, actually, in that way. And you'll be seeing more of me, I believe, out in the bigger world around that, because I think each step of the way, here I am at 54, and I've been moving through those pieces and progressing and offering and loving. But it takes a long time, if you've had a lot of stuff, to really, really free yourself to the level that maybe your gifts are going to allow you to be. So what am I saying? I guess I'm saying that you have a gift inside. You were born. I really believe that we were born ready for whatever is given to us. And that sounds really hard when you've been born into very tough circumstances. There's no doubt about it. But I really believe the soul, the spirit within us, is here to alchemize and learn from that and bring light to it, to the world we're in right now. That's part of our evolution as humans.
Absolutely. I fully agree with what you're sharing, and have my own traumatic experiences throughout the past that I've, come to learn to find the gems and the lessons and the beauty. And why I'm creating this opportunity for people to listen to these different voices is because I really do believe if we can move past sort of this almost stigma we have around trauma, or negativity around it, that we can integrate it and then have the gift and have the liberation. And so thank you for
I just
sharing
have
that.
to say, like, looking at you, I had the privilege of you being my student and get to help you in a few different ways through the years, in these kind of methods, and watched you come from this part of you that was, I always saw the light in you that's now shining so bright. So it's so much fun to see you taking ownership and leadership and being a full, empowered, like, just incredible soul doing your work at this level, offering and reaching. And it's been beautiful to witness. And I guess what I was trying to reflect in that is that I saw this in you from the beginning, because when you have it, you can see it in others so clear, and you could see that's like chipping away to come through and just totally shine. So it
Absolutely.
really is an amazing thing.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was putting this together and like trying to like, dream up who I was going to invite to this conversation, I was like, well, Jacia has been was a part of my true integration and helping me to see myself before I was really able to see myself fully. And as you said, when you have it or you feel it, other people can see that in you. And for a long time, I couldn't always see it in myself. And so people would tell me about this thing that they could see and feel. And I'm like, I don't know what you see and you feel, but thank you for that reflection. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
hoping
really
that
beautiful to witness you, sweetheart. Oh my goodness.
thank you. The people in our audience and that are listening, that they may find themselves in our stories as well and see that like maybe there aren't people in your direct community that can reflect that there is something, some gift or gem lying in your experience, but may we be mirrors for that for you.
That's so beautiful. Yes, if whoever's out there listening, that is the most important message. I remember reading books by people who spoke their truth, that like if that book hadn't come into my arms, I might not have ever known there were people having experiences like I did. And now we've got podcasts, and now we've got online summits. We have so much more information to realize like there's a world full of people experiencing what you're experiencing, and there are sisters and brothers and humans to completely align with and connect with, and help actualize your life, help you move in the direction you deep down want, because it's possible.
Absolutely. Yes. Beautiful. So another piece of this is talking about integrity. And, for some people, they really don't, we externalize what integrity means and we have like a disconnection to it. And so I'm just wanting to share different perspectives on, what the people I'm interviewing have their relationship with integrity and what it means in their lived experience versus, maybe showing up in the world. So what does integrity mean for you, Jacia?
Gosh, it's a potent question. What does integrity mean? It means being in alignment, that my thoughts, my actions, my heart, my speech truly represent my authentic being,
Mm-hmm.
and are appropriately offered in a way that honors each other, honors whoever I'm speaking to whatever, to the best that I can. Integrity for me means being in alignment with myself, but also having enough care about the other, the world, the business, the whoever it is out there, to also understand that they're doing their best, to not be holier than thou with my integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I think integrity, and that's like an integration that comes from a humility of knowing the journey and knowing that everyone's moving through it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just
Yeah.
playing what pops out in my brain
Yeah.
as we speak. So
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I think that, the connection to ourselves and realizing the difference of, we don't need to use that as, we don't need to weaponize that to whatever anybody else is experiencing. And, it's an internal process more so than meant to be a casting of what is happening outside of us. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes in our society, in our culture, it's used the latter way instead of as an internal Richter scale. And so,
I love what you said. Yeah, weaponize is a pretty potent word to express like what it doesn't feel like to me. Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't feel like the right alignment. So,
Not
thank you.
for me. Not for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. You mentioned some of the work that you do with people, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about that as far as what are ways that you support people in doing some of these embodiment practices and alchemizing trauma.
Great. Well, currently, I offer online dances, online breath work, in-person dances, in-person breath work, coaching, integration packages. I will soon, in the next year, be having some more like kind of webinars and online courses that will be larger. as well. It's those are like the main places I do some speaking as well and some writing as well. So
Amazing, amazing. So if people wanted to find out more information about that, what would be the best way for them to go about that?
best way would be to go ahead and jump on my email list, and just that way you'll as new things are offered, you'll get an email from me. I don't spam out. I'd say once a month, possibly twice a month. That's it that you'll get from me. And you can always unsubscribe if you're not interested, but I invite you to stay because there's a lot developing over here, cooking for options for people who don't just live in the area, for people all over. And I do online Zoom stuff too. So I think I already said that. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think you mentioned that there's a free gift for people who are in our audience,
Yeah,
if they sign up. So what is that?
absolutely. Yeah. If you enroll and you're interested, I mean, you can enroll either way onto my email list, but I'm offering anyone who's on this webinar, just go ahead and enroll and then send me a little message saying I was on the webinar. And if you're interested, there are 2 dates I listed where you could come join in one of those online wake up and dance classes, which is a morning movement meditation practice we do online. We do some little meditation and little sharing, and then we go through our body parts and really get into freeing them up and listening and hearing from them and energizing them. We have a little dance and play and some meditation and closure. It's just a beautiful way to start the day and really land you into yourself. And so I welcome any of you to do that. I'd love to meet you that way and come into this little intimate group and have some fun with us.
Yes, definitely. I have to echo. Jacia is a beautiful instructor, playful teacher, mentor of this movement practice. And I just couldn't speak highly enough of just checking that out and experiencing that and giving yourself permission to experience it, because it is quite transformative when you are getting in connection with your body in that way. And you're such a great guide for that process.
Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. I'm so excited that you're doing this conference. I loved the title of it. I mean, you told me and invited me, and it's called True Me. I'm like, oh yeah, perfect. I'm in.
Yay, fantastic. So I just have a couple more questions for you. And for some people, as I mentioned, they might be beginning their journey. And so do you have any recommendations or practices or ways that they could, not should, but could get into contact with this True Me integration?
For someone who's just beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I think just the sheer act of making a practice before you go to bed or when you wake up, just a simple practice. It could be as simple as saying, I commit for 10 minutes to close my eyes and put my hand on my heart and my belly and breathe in kindness and love to myself and give myself permission to feel. Or it might be to ask yourself, what do I need to work on, or I need to thank myself for today? Maybe it's taking out a journal and doing that practice so you have it written down. I mean, it sounds so simple, but just the sheer act of checking in with yourself. It's amazing how we'll go through the day just doing all the things we're supposed to do and not slowing down enough to say, whoa, I need to be here right now for me. So just that, I mean, that's just the most basic thing. But I guarantee you, if you actually did that 10 minutes a day, every day, and asked yourself for your next step after doing that for 3 weeks, you're going to have a next step. And you're going to know whether you want to call a coach or do a meditation practice or a dance class or um, or find a breath worker or a breath class or get involved in a support group of some sort or face a trauma and start talking about the way in which you're experiencing emotional abuse in your relationship or physical abuse or the way you're betraying yourself or the way you're struggling with how you see your body and your body image.
Mm-hmm.
It will open the doors to authentic conversation, but you've got to make space for yourself to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a very potent but simple practice, but sometimes very hard for anyone to do, especially in the beginning, to just give themselves a little bit of time.
Yeah. And sometimes we need an integrity partner on that. Sometimes we need a coach for that. Sometimes we can call a friend and say, I want to share what I learn each day. Do you want to join me in this practice? And then you pair up and you get a buddy. So we're going to do this.
Absolutely. Yes, that accountability, that integrity, someone that's going to be with us in the process. That's a big part of our healing journey as well. So thanks for bringing that piece. I'm curious if there are other practices that you would encourage people to look into. I know that the movement practice for you, the dancing, like what is it about that practice in particular that is so part of your journey?
So, I mean, yoga was a deep part of my journey in Pilates in terms of physical meditation. I did tremendous amounts of meditation retreats, silent retreats, shamanic retreats. But for me, the dance offered me the ability to go beyond anyone's structure or impose structures and to listen to myself, to
Hmm.
know that everything I needed was actually inside me. And the freedom to learn how to dance from within is the metaphor for me of life. How do I move? How do I feel? How do I offer myself to this music, to all parts of life? And um, yeah, it was also the most fun for me, but it's not just fun. I mean, it also offered me the space where I could just sob on the floor and I wasn't like feeling self-conscious. I remember going to yoga classes with teachers who told me I was breathing too loud or I wasn't moving right. And so that just like restructured that. Or, even though it's all great, believe me, I'm a yoga fan. I've taught yoga before. I've taught, Pilates, I've taught like kirtan and all these things, these structures, these prayers, they're all beautiful. But for me, there's something in the freedom that allowed for me to contact my deepest self and find all these things I didn't even know were inside me just by
Mhm.
shaking out the trauma, moving through the breath, landing in the body and opening the heart and just finding my wings. Yeah.
Mhm. Couldn't agree more. Dance is such a great medicine. Absolutely. And you said something about shaking off the trauma. Can you talk a little bit about that? What that means?
Yeah, sometimes our bodies, we don't think we can dance. I mean, believe me, I didn't know how to dance, but I loved, I could just tell I wanted to. Um, and I still don't know how to dance. I just dance like me, right? I dance like myself. The truth is like our bodies freeze up. If we were told that we're not supposed to move a certain way or to hold our bodies, stick out our chest, we're not supposed to move our hips a certain way, um, or we've been traumatized and we're just taught to kind of stay rigid. We go through, I like to teach that every part of our body holds stories, and as we release the stories, we literally regain muscle memory that's been shut down in certain circumstances. And
Hmm.
so literally trauma pieces fall off the body as we move and breathe and open.
Amazing. Amazing.
And that's true with breath work as well, which is another one of my big passion practices that way.
Hmm. Such great keys, breath and movement. And it's not something that we in the Western culture mindset are very connected to. And so I'm really excited to share this with people that these practices might seem simple at first, but the complexity of them and what they're able to access is in the practice of it.
Yeah, it's true. They look so, so simple on the outside, but it's the inner experience. It's the diving in. It's living from the inside where all the layers open up. You know, a lot
Mhm.
of people are like, oh, I don't do that kind of stuff. It doesn't draw me, but that's just because the mind is so busy. It's never relaxed enough to find out what's underneath.
Right, right.
And
And
what's
then
underneath is magic. And
absolutely.
scary things, healing portals. I mean, you know why the mind stays so busy because if we slow it down, it's going to have to feel what the body's been through, what the soul is trying to say, where we're out of authenticity, where we're out of alignment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it's in the practice of continuing to show up, as you mentioned, like the morning dance classes you offer, and ways for people to continue to show up to it, because each time is a different experience.
Yeah. And the one other thing I didn't say that I also think is incredibly healing is nature.
Mm.
Can't tell you the amount of healing just walking and smelling and feeling nature does that. And make sure to get outside every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes, and walk, breathe, find a park, look for the flowers on your block, the neighborhood smells, the beauty in a little cat's eyes that passes by, or a soul walking down the street, practicing engaging with the world, making eye contact, seeing that it can bring out love when you feel safe too. Those things, connectivity to our world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all those different ways that people can connect and sharing ways that people can stay in contact with you. Before we end today, is there anything that you would like to share that we haven't talked about?
Oh gosh. Hmm. Well, I guess to say, if you're listening and you're feeling like this makes sense to you and you know there's more steps to take, please know that you're right. You know, please trust that inner voice. My I have an inner voice that has guided me my whole life, but for years I didn't listen to it. And so many of the stories I went through, traumas, experiences, I'm not saying they were wrong or that I shouldn't have gone through them. I needed to in order to understand that I need to listen to my inner voice. But you got one. And if you don't know what it is, reach out, because the more we land in ourselves, the more we hear, whether you call it God or spirit or your inner voice or wholeness speaking, it will speak to you. So the universe, life wants your wellness. It really does. It might look like it doesn't, but you got to get on your own side because it won't happen without you. If you're stuck in saying, why does everything happen to me? You have to become the driver of your own vehicle, your own body, your own decision making. When you put yourself into there, not the ego, and that's a hard thing to discern at the beginning, but just your choice to say, yes, I'm going to do this. That's the start. So feel free to reach out. I do lots of programs, and I'm sure every person on this, Tamara does incredible work, and I'm sure every person on this whole thing will have gems to offer you. So
absolutely. Thank you. And different teachers resonate with different people. And so absolutely, if Jacia is resonating with you, reach out and connect and get in contact with that inner voice, that soul. You know, I feel like one of the things that I see is there's a lot of people in the world today that don't necessarily have a relationship with that part of themselves. And so, as you mentioned, like just that practice alone, like giving yourself 10 minutes in the morning or in the evening to get into relationship with that and start to discern, you know, where it's coming from, whether it's the ego or the soul or other parts of you, yeah, is a really great way to start.
nice breath, just feeling all the potency of the word shared and just the beauty of this new way in which we all get to see each other and connect in, and may it benefit someone out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your devotion to your path, and may you keep shining your light brighter and brighter to show the way for so many more.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Woo.